Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you once again. As we have said in the past, and it's very worthwhile mentioning this again, this particular series, perhaps more than any other, speaks to the heart and soul of our wonderful community, the amazing organizations and their dedicated staff and volunteers who perform acts of kindness in a way that gives dignity to so many members of the Jewish community is something that's certainly deserving to be highlighted. Our hope through the series is to highlight that, one, recognition and gratitude for their tremendous dedication and commitment is very much due. And number two, through recognizing what is done, we can please God inspire each other to do a little bit more. Everyone can make a difference, and we all need one another. Before I introduce Rabbi Levi Lipskar and Rob Katz, I'd like to share a Dvar Torah. Towards the end of this week's parasha, we will find that the Torah refers to Noach as an Ish HaAdamah, a man of the ground. The commentaries speak about this description, that this description speaks to the very definition that Noach became. What was his essence? What was his priority? The Ramban Nachmanides comments that in fact from here we learn a tremendous principle, that whenever the Torah gives a description to the description Ish, that description defines the very essence of the individual and not just a particular activity that the individual is doing. So as an example, when Moshe Rabbeinu is called an Isha Elokim, a man of God, it's not just that on occasion Moshe Rabbeinu sometimes did acts that were defined as an act of God, but rather his very definition, his very essence is defined as Elokim, an Isha Elokim, a man of God. Such was the nature of Moshe Rabbeinu, according to Nachmanides. In relation to a story that we'll learn about in a couple of weeks, Avraham Avinu, the ultimate Baal Chesed, there's a remarkable observation and a remarkable question regarding one of the most famous stories about Avraham Avinu, where Avraham Avinu is standing, he's sitting at the entrance of his tent, waiting for visitors to come upon him, and the day is hot. Chazal teach, Rashi teaches that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the day hot, brought the sun out so that there wouldn't in fact be visitors, so there wouldn't in fact be a need for Avraham Avinu to welcome in any visitors into his tent because he was recovering from that operation. Nonetheless, though, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that Avraham Avinu was in pain. Why was he in pain? He was in pain because he couldn't do the act of chesed. He couldn't do the act of achnosos orchim, even though there was no apparent need. And this is an amazing observation and an amazing question. Our friend asks, why was Avraham Avinu in pain? At the end of the day, if there was no need, so then he shouldn't be in pain. There's no need for him to welcome anyone to his home, so he doesn't welcome anyone into his home. But that wasn't Avraham Avinu. And perhaps an answer is as follows. The chesed of Avraham Avinu is not a chesed only of practicality, a chesed of need. The chesed of Avraham Avinu defines the very essence of who he was as a person. So whether there is a need or no need, Avraham Avinu, as a Baal Chesed, needs to do chesed, for chesed is the very definition of who and what Avraham Avinu was as an individual. And so too in relation to the tremendous organizations we've had the tremendous opportunity to host over the last couple of weeks. Organizations that not only do chesed because there is a need to do chesed, but organizations that illustrate to us that the very essence of who these people are and their organizations is in fact chesed. I'll tell you one illustration before I hand over, a litmus test. When you do chesed because of a practicality, so then really what you got to do is fulfill the need and tick the box. When you do chesed because it's the very definition of who you are as a person, so how you do the chesed becomes incredibly important. In fact, certainly as important as the chesed itself, if not more important than the chesed itself, how you actually do the chesed. And each one of the amazing organizations we've been blessed to host illustrate, one, doing chesed and taking into account the practicalities of the chesed that is being done, but over and above that, illustrating how to do chesed with a tremendous amount of dignity. And that in itself is something very important for all of us to be cognizant of and something that we can all be inspired from and hopefully be able to emulate. It gives me great pleasure to introduce on behalf of the base, as well as on behalf of Seoul, a series, again, one-on-one talks with people leading the organizations that support, serve, and save the Jewish community. Tonight, the Friendship Circle, represented by Rabbi Levi Lipskar. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Robert Katz.
Thank you, Rabbi, and a warm welcome to our guests. Hope the Chagim went well and hope this webinar finds you all safe and healthy. Rabbi Levi, welcome, and Jayde, welcome to our show. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be spending the first 30 minutes of the show on Friendship Circle, and I want to spend the last 30 minutes of the show on the Chabad movement, which really fits fairly and squarely in the Chesed bracket. So Levi, that's what we're going to be doing. You're going to be leading from the Friendship Circle. So a warm welcome, Levi and Jayde, a warm welcome. This is not an interview, this is a discussion, as we always have it on the base. So Jayde, Levi, feel very, very free to interrupt, to make whatever points you want as we go in a very, very fluid conversation that we're going to be having over the next hour. Levi, let me start with you, just to inform our viewers really what the Friendship Circle is, how does it work, what role it plays in the Jewish community, and what the need is. I just want to just tell the viewers that straight after, Levi, you've answered that first question, what we're going to do is we're going to go straight into a 5-minute video, which will really just add a bit of color and highlight really practically what the Friendship Circle is. So if you can, let's just start right away, Levi, and answer that question one. Friendship Circle, what is it? What role does it play? How does it work?
Thank you, Rob. Good evening to you and to all of the viewers. And again, a big yasher koyach to my dear colleague, Rabbi Aaron Zolberg, for the important work that he plays and the roles that he has been fulfilling in a difficult time for people. And behind the scenes, my good friend Moshe Zolberg, who's always there, making sure that the technical elements are working. And it's always a pleasure to work with Moshe, with Rabbi Aaron, and my dear friend Rob, for us to have a discussion with lots of people listening in. Perhaps they'll gain some insights and hear a little bit about the Friendship Circle, and a little bit later on, a little bit more about the history of Chabad. And of course, to my colleague Jayde Ronthal, who is really the driving force, the front office, the head and shoulders of the Friendship Circle. So Rob, to give the basis of what the Friendship Circle is, the Friendship Circle is an organization that provides assistance to individuals with special needs. We also provide assistance to their families, providing recreational, social, educational, vocational programming. And in addition to helping those in need, the Friendship Circle tries to enrich its vast network of teenage volunteers by enabling them to reap the rewards of selfless giving. You know, we live in a world where people are looking for instant gratification, constantly wanting more and more in the material world. And certainly our teenagers and our young adults don't really always know what it means to give of themselves selflessly. So when we bring them in and we train them how to befriend a person with special needs, it really gives them the idea of selfless giving, shows them the gifts that they've got in their lives, and creates the circle of friendship. Children and teens with special needs with their volunteers. And the mission essentially is to enrich the lives of individuals with special needs. People that are facing isolation, we try and give them an opportunity to become really contributing members of our community. We have a beautiful community, and often people with special needs or differently abled are not necessarily seen at the forefront of our community. And so through the programming of the Friendship Circle, we aim to create this inclusive community that really values every single individual's, no matter what types of challenges they have or that they're facing. And it's really founded on the idea that within each and every person is a neshama, is a soul. And that soul is equal, that soul is worthy of absolute and boundless love. And it's with this inspiration and the lives of their families that we serve, we are positive that the families' lives are enhanced, while the volunteers, the mainstream teenagers, really reap the rewards of selfless giving. So in essence, we saw a community where there was the Selwyn Siegel and other organizations that were doing incredible work, primarily for children that were institutionalized. But those children that were living at home, the families were really struggling with how to incorporate their children with special needs into the community. And thus, the Friendship Circle in South Africa became a reality. We were actually the 74th branch worldwide when we opened in 2010, but we'll speak a little bit about how it started here in South Africa. But I think just to give you that overview of what we are and the value that I think is added to the community, in that we create an inclusive environment for people of any types of need. We show them that they are they have a place in the community, and they are indeed special. And I think that, we're going to see a little video now, which will really give an idea to what the Friendship Circle is and the mission that it's trying to create.
Dylan was born very early. He was also born with a syndrome, very rare syndrome. And he's a child with special needs. He's 11 years old, and he is the most exceptional human being. He really is. Schooling has been easier because there is a school for special needs. There's not many to choose from, but there is. Socially, it's hard, and that's where the Friendship Circle comes in, because he's 11 now, and everybody he knows, besides his siblings, friends, are children with special needs, and they're very hard to befriend each other per se. And the Friendship Circle brings these girls in, and they are his friends. Sassy and Tashi are my volunteers, and they are the most exceptional girls. They are so powerful in Dylan's life and in our lives. And they come once a week for an hour, and they put a lot of effort into what they do.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
And it's huge. It really is. I think Sassy and Tashi are the icing on our cake. I think Friendship Circle plays a huge part, especially in Dylan's life. And if whatever happens in Dylan's life affects our lives. So that I know every week, once a week, that he's going to have his friends coming. And I can't emphasize that enough, because children grow up with friends. They befriend kids at school. They socialize after school with their friends. For a child with special needs, it doesn't always happen. And these girls do it for that. They give Dylan that. So I can give him as much love, and I can give him schooling, and I can give you all those other needs. I can't give him the friends. Friendship Circle has done that, and Sassy and Tashi have given Dylan that.
When we came to South Africa, our goal was to open the Friendship Circle, and in fact we were the 75th branch of the Friendship Circle to open up in the world. And we actually opened an open house to the parents, and by the end of the evening we had 15 different sets of parents there, all in tears and saying, we're ready for this, this is what we need. And from then it just went out of proportion, unbelievable. Our goal in Friendship Circle is really to create a community where children with special needs and the volunteers, as well as both families, feel a warm and safe haven. The Friends at Home program in particular has really been one of the most successful parts of the Friendship Circle, where we send 2 trained volunteers, generally grade 9 up until varsity, or anybody really who'd like to volunteer, and they go once a week to the home of their child. And this is their buddy. And it's both ways. I mean, the volunteers come out and they have learned so much. They've learned patience. They've learned the special qualities of every person. They realize that differences don't matter. What matters is who is at the other end of the person that you're looking at and what is in there. And this is what the Friendship Circle is about, giving both ways. Dylan, or the child, giving to them, showing them how much there is in each child, whether they have special needs or not, and the volunteers giving of their own time and of themselves, whether it's for community service hours that they have in school, or just to simply give of themselves. We also have once a month programs where everybody is invited to come. So it's not a matter of, leave that child at home because he's not invited, or what are we going to do with this child? Stay at home with the maid. Everybody's invited. Come, you drop off your kids. It's a fun, games, entertainment, food, just a good place for all of us to have laughs and fun together. So it's really about the circle of friends, our volunteers, our donors, and of course, our buddies.
We do different things with Dylan. For example, we had a Barney party because Dylan loves Barney. So we have music, we sing a lot, we've asked Mari biscuits, we've done cupcakes, and we just do fun things together. It's a time to be just together and just to have fun.
Each week we get a different lesson from Dill, just his love for life and his enthusiasm for whatever he's doing. And Dill does have unconditional love, that's passion.
And that's what he loves. And he loves us. And I think they love Dylan because they certainly come here with a smile on their face. They laugh at Dylan's stuff. And that's what they give us.
That video is actually, I think, about nine or so years old. I often used to see, even, up to recently, before lockdown, I used to see the same volunteers who I believe one of them was married already, still going out for coffee with Dylan. And it just goes to show that these friendships are really life-lasting friendships.
That's amazing. Amazing work that you and Jade do. Levi, in the kol hakavod to you. In the beginning, you did say that you're the 75th chapter or branch internationally. So, just for our viewers and even for my own edification, can you just explain really the organization's beginnings? Where does the idea come from? Who started, who inspired Friendship Circle?
So Friendship Circle was founded in 1994 in Detroit, Michigan, by Rabbi Levi Shem Tov. And he and his wife saw the need, even all those years ago, to incorporate people with special needs into the community. And they've developed, into a worldwide organization. They, in fact, built a place in Detroit called the Life Town, where people of special needs can come and actually learn the day-to-day skills that they need. They built a mini salon, a mini supermarket, a mini bank, so that they can teach the children the day-to-day skills that perhaps we take for granted. And in 2010, when Leah and I moved back to South Africa, it was a passion of Leah's to create the Friendship Circle here in South Africa. And ultimately, the Friendship Circle is based on the premise of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your fellows, love yourself. And in essence, it comes from the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who really showed care and concern for absolutely every individual, no matter what circumstances they were in. And the movement in itself was always looking for ways to incorporate more and more people, no matter their circumstances. So when we moved back here in 2010, we created the Friendship Circle. And initially, to be honest with you, it was quite a difficult beginning, because I think that here in South Africa, we weren't ready for it. There was either children who were in Selwyn Siegel or had to be in an institution, but people that had children with special needs kind of kept them at home. No one really knew that there was children with special needs at home. They would stay home with a maid. They wouldn't really come out. And to her credit, my wife Leah really drew the families out and created the circle where they could feel comfortable to now feel part of this community. And in fact, Jade is one of the volunteers who's come through the ranks. And when Leah took on a full-time position as the nursery school principal of the Torah Academy, we asked Jade if she would take on the directorship role of the Friendship Circle. So although I'm still involved in an administration level, it's really Jade and her team that runs the front end of the Friendship Circle, organizing the programming, really there on the ground. So since 2010, it's been 10 years of Friendship Circle. And thank God we've really managed to touch a lot of lives. And more importantly than just the children, the families grow with confidence, because they now have a place that the children can feel really special, really connected, and ultimately really valuable.
Wonderful. Thank you, Levi. Jayde, we're going to go on to you now, but we've just had a question from the floor, and I remind our viewers, as always on these programs, please feel very, very free to pose your questions to us. We will, and comments. We will then decide which questions we put to our panelists. One of the questions we did have was, where are you situated? Jayde, do you want to just answer that question quickly, and then we'll go on to asking you some questions?
Yes, sure. So we currently are situated in Highlands North, Johannesburg. That's where our programs run from. The kids come to us, the families come to us, and obviously our buddies come to the kids when that is set up between the parent and the volunteer.
But Jayde, you also do go to others. I know that from my own family's experience that I've dropped and fetched at other houses. Is that correct?
Yes, for sure. So when we've got events, like for example, one of our very successful events every year is a sukkah hop. We actually get a double-decker bus for the kids, the teens, and the adults, and we get a bunch of volunteers to come with, and we hop from one house to another with the very kind and generous giving from the volunteers who offer their houses. And that's often where, you'll pick up and fetch your kids from a different location. So sometimes it does change. I think it depends on the event, the capacity of the event, how big the event is, what it's for, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Jayde, we're going to talk about some of the unique programs that you provide.
Cool. So we have 3 very specific programs. We run something called TAC, which stands for Teens and Adults Program, and that is run specifically for our teenagers and our adults who have special needs. A lot of these adults come from the Selwyn Seagull, and they join our program, which happens once a week every Monday night. Besides for the Selwyn Seagull residents, we have many, many teens and adults who come from normal homes with very loving, great family, and they just honestly need a place to connect, to feel like they have a place in the community and in society, that they aren't alone, and that there's a space and a platform for them to really communicate and interact with others on a level that they feel is their normal. And we do this every Monday night. We do it at night, so it can create kind of that like vibey, fun atmosphere. We get together, we bring a bunch of volunteers to come and help with the interaction, to help with the communication, and it's really just about having a space for them to get together. So that's what we do every Monday night, and we encourage university students to get involved, because I think these teens and adults really want to feel and believe like they're older, they're not kids, they want to be understood. So we would love for if there's any, university students or elder people on this chat tonight who would love to join, you can definitely get in touch. And then on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, we run something called Hebrew School, which focuses on teaching our little kids the Aleph Base and the Parsha and about the different Chagim. A lot of them don't go to mainstream schools, and a lot of them don't even go to normal Jewish day schools. So we really need to encourage that learning and that growth, because for some of them, this is the only platform they get to learn about anything relating to Judaism. And on a Wednesday, we have something called the Friendship Circle Club, where we honestly just providing a fun, stimulating environment for these kids to get together, to know that they aren't alone. I mean, for some of these kids, if it weren't for our programs, they sit at home all day, their parents are at work, they have no one to talk to, no one to interact with. So these programs really provide a space and a place for them to come and to be with kids like them, and to have volunteers that are focusing their attention on them and caring about them and looking after them. And it's really all about them and what we can do to help them. And I was looking at that video of Dylan, and as Levi said, it was taken such a while ago, but he's about 16 or 17 now. And I was just thinking about how before lockdown happened, he was still attending our programs, and more than we carried him through, he carried us through. And that's what the kids of Friendship Circle do. So that's why we have these consistent programs every single week, to make sure that these kids know that there's always a place for them to go.
And Jayde, I assume that the volunteers gain a heap load by volunteering. I'm just assuming that their own personal growth is enormous, being exposed to this kind of chesed.
Definitely. So at the beginning of each year, we do a volunteer training program whereby we train volunteers to come in to know exactly what they're dealing with, to gain the tools necessary, to be equipped with, if they have to handle a kid who's, having a meltdown or breakdown or going through something difficult, that these volunteers are fully equipped to deal with that. A lot of the volunteers are very scared at first and very hesitant to get involved. It's nothing they've been exposed to. I think we do sometimes live in a very sheltered environment, a very sheltered community. And this is really an opportunity for us to open up and to feel like there's so much more out there that we could be learning about and exposing ourselves to. And the volunteers gain enormously. I think sometimes they gain more than the kids, the teens and the adults do, because it's just such a great opportunity for them to know that there's difference out there, and we have to embrace the difference and we have to see the beauty in that difference. And I think the volunteers, for those who have persevered and really pushed themselves to, go out of their comfort zones, they've learned so much and it's been so great for them, and they've made friendships that last a lifetime.
Amazing. Jayde, tell me, how many families are currently involved?
So I was looking at my WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group with all our parents that are involved, and there's about 115 parents on that group to date. And I honestly believe that that is not all. I think there's a huge target market out there for parents who have kids with special needs and may feel a bit scared to speak up about it, may feel a bit hesitant. They don't want to, become a part of the world where things are a bit different to what they're used to. But we currently have 115 families involved. It's growing every day.
And is that all Johannesburg based?
Yes, this is all Johannesburg based. It grows all the time. I got a phone call last week from a parent whose child was just diagnosed with special needs, and she wanted to join the group. She heard about us and she heard about the support that we provide. So I know that there's tons more out there, and it's just about reaching them and showing them how we can help.
Right. And COVID, how's COVID impacted the programming?
So
it's not a case of hazard.
Yeah, so COVID has not been great for us. Our kids, our teens and our adults are very used to the human face-to-face interaction. And I think not having that has proven to be very difficult. But at the same time, we embraced the challenge and we resorted to doing our sessions exactly how we have been in the past. We just do them on Zoom and we do them every week. And it's tough. It's tough to keep them stimulated. It's tough to keep them, captured the whole time. But we do our best, and we know that the kids really need it and they really want to be there. And more than that, we really want to be there. And the volunteers make a huge effort. I mean, most of the volunteers are at school, so they literally are on their laptops 24/7. But they don't back down. They're here to help us. They're here to stay. And we've been doing our programs via Zoom. Me and Levi have been in discussion about going back on a face-to-face basis, but these kids and these teens and these adults are at risk. So we have to just be very careful about what we do. Yeah.
Jayde, I'm sure after listening to you and Levi, there's a heap load of people that actually do want to volunteer to help. How actually what's the next step? They've listened to you on the program. They want to help. What do they do next?
So I will leave my email address on the chat, and whoever is interested in becoming a volunteer can email me. There obviously is a process where we do screen them and interview them to make sure that they're the correct volunteer for the system. Once we've done that, it's simply being added to a WhatsApp group, keeping in touch with the events that are going on, joining those events, requesting if they want a buddy once a week, if they've got the capacity to handle that, and making an effort to make a connection with a kid that really, their life could be changed through just interaction and communication.
Right. Okay. So just to recap, Jayde, so you will put your email address on, and Mosh, if at the end of the program you can just put it up and then we can then take it from there for those who want to take it further. Okay.
I'm doing it right now.
All right. Levi, after listening to Jayde and how volunteers get involved, is there anything on a communal level that you would like, or is it on a micro level where families and individuals get involved?
So in essence, thank God certainly the South African Jewish community, more specifically the Johannesburg Jewish community, is a community that's really looked after itself. It's a very welfare-heavy community. It looks after itself. And when we created the Friendship Circle, we were very cognizant not to add an extra burden onto the community. And we thought long and hard about it, and we thought that the value that the program brings and the need for it far outweigh that concern. And we made sure that it's a very program-heavy budget for the Friendship Circle. And so in essence, the Friendship Circle doesn't run a massive budget, and we do rely on the kindness of the community. A couple of times a year, I'll go and see various foundations to try and get support for the community. But in essence, it relies on the kindness of individuals to come forward and to assist on a month-to-month basis. And like I say, it's not a massive budget, but we really see the value in it, and we really see the importance of the work. So all those that want to assist and want to get involved, it's a 18A non-profit organization. Everybody is able to see the open books of it and are really able to view that. And we welcome people's partnership.
Yes. I think, Levi, it's fair to say that, the mere fact that you're on the show means that, the rabbi, has given his hechsher for Friendship Circle. So to the fact that there is any viewers out there, whilst these are certainly not fundraising shows, to the extent that people do want to donate, I see that we've put on the chat the bank account details, and anyone who again needs to just do so, it's over here. But if they do, Levi, and they want to contact, they have the email that Jayde has put it there. So to our viewers out there, you have the contact details. To those of you who do want to contribute and help, we have put the bank details above there, so that's all sorted out. Okay.
If I can come in for just a moment.
Of course you can.
Just to say that, for years and years, the Friendship Circle kind of operated and flew, below the radar, and we got on with it. And it's really with the gratitude to Jayde, who's really driven it forward and taken it with incredible love. She came from being a volunteer to being the program director to ultimately directing the program. And to that end, people have recognized that. And she's actually just been nominated for, I think it's the Humanitarian Award at the ABSA Jewish Achievers Award.
Oh, wonderful, Jayde. Wonderful.
And it just goes to show that the work is being recognized. So it's a big kudos to Jayde. Yasher koach.
How do we vote for her? That's important. We should put that on the show, Levi.
I think it's on the...
Well, I vote to you, Jayde. Well done. I didn't know. So, kol hakavod, and you should go from strength to strength.
Amen.
Okay. Concluding message to the community, Levi, before we then focus on the second half of the show, which is Chabad. Jayde, do you have any concluding message to the community? We've spoken for half an hour, we've spoken a lot, but is there something final that you'd like to say?
I think it's important just to let everyone know that difference is okay, and it's good to embrace difference. It's good to understand it, and it's good to value it and see the beauty in it. And if everyone listening here just sees that and understands that and becomes a part of our organization by helping in whatever way they can, that would be amazing, and would make a huge difference to the lives of our kids, our teens, and our adults with special needs. So thank you for listening.
Wonderful, Jayde. And thank you for appearing on our show.
Thank
the Eibishter should bench you and your family for all the chesed that you do, and it's really, really amazing to have listened to what you do. And please God, you'll have the strength to do it for many, many years going forward. Thank you. All right, Levi, over to you now. I want to devote the rest of this program to the Chabad community, and I think it's fair to say that Chabad is synonymous with Chesed. The Lubavitcher Rebbe Zecher Tzadik Livrocha's Avas Yisrael and Chesed were legendary. I think there's a heap load of people in this town who have been influenced by the Chesed, Rachamim, Hanachnosos Orchim of the Chabad movement. It's certainly not exclusive to Chabad, but Chabad certainly do it very, 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 very well. I must make a confession over here, and that is that 35 years ago, I spent a lot of time in the Harrow Road congregation shul. Levi, I don't even think you might have just been born over then. It was your father's shul. And there were certainly many, many, many people who had a remarkable influence on my life. If I can single out just two people, Manny Dworkin, who I owe everything I do in Chesed to Manny. Manny showed me what Chesed is. He brought me in at a young age to run the Chabad Hasidim Gemach. I didn't even know what a Gemach was in those days. And I learned from many what the Lubavitcher Rebbe, as I say, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, said, that when you're running a Gemach, you must run it with, we wanted to see bad debts written off and no money in the bank account. Why? Because with bad debts written off, it means you're running the Gemach with Chesed and with Rachamim, not with a Shvere mentaliteit. And no money in the bank account means that you looking for Jews to help. And this is the philosophy that I learned from a very, very young age from many. And, whatever chesed that I've done, I really owe the genesis of all of that to Mani Dworkin. Also from Hachnosis Orchim point of view, I learned Hachnosis Orchim literally, growing up in Mani Dworkin's house. I saw the Hachnosis Orchim of Rabbi Heller. I saw the Avas Yisrael of Rabbi Heller, and many, many other people in that congregation, too many to mention. So the point what I'm trying to say is that it would be totally remiss of me not to have a tremendous Hakoras Hatov to Mani Dworkin, to Rabbi Heller, and to many, many others of that community, which I saw right up front very early in my life, the amazing Chesed, Rachamim, and Achnosis Orchim that was there. So my question to you, Levi, is what makes it one of Chabad's raison d'etre to focus on all of this and to have such an impact on so many people in this way?
Sure, Rob, it's a very good question. And if you think back to a short number of years ago, post-Holocaust America, you had different sects of Jewish people who came off the boat, came off the planes, and there were two very distinct groups of people. You had those that said, well, either there's no God, and even if there is a God, how could he do such a thing? And therefore, we're out, we're done. And then you had those who retained their Yiddishkeit, but felt that in order to really keep their Yiddishkeit alive, they had to go into their own small communities, to lock themselves away from the outside world in order to preserve that which they had managed to keep. And then in the middle, you had the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, who showed a tremendous love to every single person. He really wanted to reach out to every single Yid with kindness. I'll take this moment to, I'm going to quote Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, and will at this moment to say that he should have a refuah shlema. He's just announced that he isn't well, and please God, he should have a refuah shlema. But he often would quote to say that if Hitler Yamach Shemoy sought out the Jewish people with hate, the Lubavitcher Rebbe sought out the Jewish people with love. And when the Rebbe began sending his shluchim around the world, it was truly a mission of love. The Rebbe genuinely cared about every single Yid in whichever corner they were, with an absolute love. He really embodied the spirit of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and therefore it was that spirit which he gave to his shluchim, to his chasidim, that as they went on this journey, often you get sent on a mission, you get a one-way ticket or you get a return ticket. When it came to the Rebbe, you were given a one-way ticket. You probably had to fundraise the one-way ticket yourself. But that's because you were going on this mission until the coming of Mashiach, and the Rebbe really was able to give this love that he had for each and every individual. He was able to give that over to these young couples, and as they went around the world, they were able to imbue that into the communities that they found themselves in. And as time went on, it wasn't only the mainstream type of programming where this love, this care, this connection was shown. It then extended itself into programs like the Friendship Circle, programs like prison reform, programs like taking care of the Jewish servicemen. In any area that there was a Jew in isolation, no matter if it was a physical isolation or a spiritual isolation, the Rebbe showed a tremendous sense of love. And that's something which really came down to his Hasidim, to his Shluchim, which was really imbued in us. And so growing up in the house of a Chabad Shliach, a Chabad Chassid, that's all I saw growing up. Our table was always full. Our sukkah was always full. There were always people visiting, always people seeking advice. It's something which we always knew about. It's something which we kind of lived with. And this is really a tribute to the Rebbe. The Rebbe really inspired this generation.
Yeah, I must say, Levi, one of the most powerful talks I've ever heard, be it business or personal, was given by Rabbi Gotlarski. He should be well. And he spoke at a wedding in South Africa. And he spoke about how the sacrifice of the young Chabad Hasidim on Shlichut and what they have to do. And you talk about a one-way ticket. I was actually in Milan once, and I was not planning to be there for Shabbat, and I had to stay over for Shabbat from a business point of view, and I had nowhere to go. And I phoned your father, and he said, just give me your contact details and just stay where you are for an hour. And an hour later, the Rebbitzin phoned me. It was actually Rabbi Beryl Rodel's mother. And I went to Beryl and Hanela's mother and father for Shabbat, and it was the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. And it put Hachnosos Orchim to a different level. And when I got back to South Africa, I actually didn't even know that Beryl even existed. I looked him up and I said, listen, I just spent Shabbat with your parents. They're well. And, if the 16 of you have learned nothing from your parents other than the Hachnosos Orchim, it's enough. And Beryl used to say to me that when they were kids, they used to have to sleep on chairs so that guests could sleep in their beds. It's just Hachnosos Orchim on a different level. And, Beryl's father was telling me that he was a Canadian, much like your father is. And when he was sent on Shlichut to Milan, he thought it was a mistake. And he said to Lubavitcher Rebbe, you've made a mistake. I can't go to Milan. It's just after the war. I can't speak a word of Italian. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, no, it's no mistake. You go. And Beryl's father said, no, my wife's just fled Europe, blood-soaked Europe. She can't go back to Europe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says, no mistake. You're going. So he realized he had to go, not speaking a word of Italian, into the depths of, I don't know what was left of Italy after the Nazis had decimated, not even decimated, had annihilated the Jews. And not long ago, Berle and his whole family met in New York for one of the weddings, the entire family. I think there were 16 children, over 100 grandchildren, and that really was the broch of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that every single one of Berle's parents as children and grandchildren are from and leading a Torah way of life. So, it's an amazing reward for the years on Shlichut. Levi, talk to me now about Chabad specifically in South Africa. How did it start, and when did it start? Why did it start?
So in over the course of the 60s, Rabbi Weinberg Sr., Rabbi Weinberg's father, used to come and visit. He used to give shiurim, used to collect for the various yeshivot. And Koppel Bacha, in the early 70s, made a request to the Rebbe for a permanent shliach, a permanent couple to come to South Africa. And it was my parents who were selected by the Rebbe to come to South Africa in 1972. And my grandmother, who may she live and be well, she often would tell the story. She hasn't heard, she's been deaf for many, many years. She often would say, if this is a map, she would say, Sholom is here in Miami, Yossi is here in Miami, Chaim is here in New York, and Mendel is here. Because to them, the concept of going so far, even as Chabad Shluchim themselves living in Toronto, educators and people very, very strongly involved in the community, going so far was something which was completely foreign. And my father often tells me that as a rabbinical student, he had an interesting story. The way that the Chabad yeshiva system works is that you would spend a number of years in the various yeshivas, either overseas, in Montreal, in Newark, in New Jersey. But for your fourth year of Yeshiva Gedola, you would come to 770. And you would study where the Rebbe is. The Rebbe called them in his class. He called them in to say that the yeshiva in 770 was very small, and the class coming in was very big. And he asked my father's class if they would go back to Montreal and they would study there for that year. And that could be a tremendous disappointment for individuals who had waited for this moment that they could come and study in the Rebbe's environment. And my father said from that moment, he always had a desire, because the Rebbe said, you should know that if you're far physically, you're very, very close spiritually to me. And my father said it was from that moment that he had a desire to go far physically on shlichus. And when South Africa became an option, it was a no-brainer, and off they went. And in an audience that my parents had with the Lubavitcher Rebbe before they went on shlichus, my mother asked the Rebbe how it is that their house would be a warm one, their house would be one that was comfortable, and their shalom bayis would be nice and wonderful and beautiful. And the Rebbe said in Yiddish, "Zen zu mach lichtig bei jenem, wird sicher sein warm bei euch." If you make it warm for somebody else, it will certainly be warm for you. And that's the motto that they've lived with, to make it warm, to make it special, to make it light in somebody else's life. And certainly that reflection comes back into your life. So that was 1972. And although South Africa, as many of you know, had a tremendous amount going on in the community, there were various schools. In essence, it was the beginning of outreach work in South Africa, with the establishment of the first Chabad house and the mitzvah tanks and the mobile sukkahs all over town.
Levi, can I just interrupt you just for 1 second? You talked about making it warm for everybody. My first exposure to your father, I don't even know if you were born, Levi. It was in the Harrow Road Shul, and it was Simchat Torah night. And in my naivety, I was very young. I'm going back 35 years. In my absolute naivety, I can see him as if it was today. As if it was today. He gets up there on the bima there. You remember on where the Sefer Torahs were, and it's packed. The shul is absolutely packed. Because in those days, if you wanted a party, Simchat Torah night, you went to Harrow Road, okay? And he says he has it on good authority that the coming of Mashiach is solely and only dependent on the amount of dancing that's going to take place that night at that shul. And in my naivety, I actually believed him. But I must just say to you, Levi, that I've never, ever had a Simchat Torah night like that one. The guys danced through the night. It was unbelievable. So when you talk about your father creating the warmth, that's the beginning of where I went back to. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And as it's developed throughout the years, it's obviously grown and grown with the establishment of the Torah Academy School and the various Chabad shuls around town, and the outreach and the efforts. But as you say, from really humble beginnings, and with a lot of effort and a lot of hard work and pure dedication, but really on tonight's theme, really riding on the wings of care and chesed and love, and just wanting to give to a fellow Jew for no other reason. They didn't know anybody else. They didn't have an interaction with anybody else, but just knowing that there was another Yid who perhaps could grow physically or spiritually, there was that desire to reach out.
Right. Levi, and in South Africa in particular, okay, what programs are offered specifically by Chabad?
So Chabad has the crown jewel, as it were, is obviously the Torah Academy School, which has 600 children currently enrolled in the school. There are then...
Sorry, Levi, and that includes, just for clarification point of view, you've got a nursery school, a primary school, a high school, and a primary school and high school for boys and girls separately, correct?
Correct. And perhaps, it's a terrible business plan, as you well know, Rob, to have a separate high schools and to have all these separate schools, but, it follows the way that the Rebbe wanted education done and the way that the Rebbe sought Al Torah Kodesh. And so that is the crown jewel is the Torah Academy School. And then around Johannesburg, you have, I believe, 14 Chabad shuls and shtiblach and places of learning, places of outreach. You have the central Chabad house at Aintree Avenue, which is tasked with really the outreach work, with which has the shiurim that are taking place on a daily basis, the care for the elderly. You have all sorts of programming that goes out from there on a very, the Rebbe had the 10 mitzvahim, which really are the foundation of Chabad. So going out, teaching people about kashrus, going out and laying tefillin with people, going out and teaching people about Ahavas Yisrael, teaching about the various mitzvot. You've then got a Chabad in Cape Town, you've got Chabad in Durban. And all over town, you've got a Jewish Learning Institute, you've got lots of shiurim on the go. So across the board, and then you've got outreach organizations. You've got Rabbi Kievman, who does a lot of work with the elderly. You have the Friendship Circle, which is taking care of people with special needs. So really across the spectrum, you've got so many elements. You have Rabbi Pink, who runs incredible day camps for the children and overnight camps for the children. Many people would have memories as children of going to Gan Yisrael, and that's for many the sole element of Yiddishkeit that they can remember from their youth. So across the spectrum, there's a wide range of offerings across the town and across the country.
Yeah, and Levi, the one thing that impresses me, as I said, when I listen to Rabbi Kotlarski speak about, the Chabad Hasidim in far out places, even in South Africa, we've got Rabbi Dovi Rabin in Four Ways and Rabbi Pink in Greenstone. So, these are amazing people doing amazing work. Levi, anything else that you want to talk about in terms of Chabad and specifically the Chesed topic to conclude?
So I think Rob, you've really covered it in essence, and I think that it's so wonderful that this webinar has been put together over and over, highlighting the various Chesed institutions. I've had the opportunity to study across the world. I've been in yeshivas across the world, and you meet South Africans who have emigrated, who have left, and what they really missed about South Africa is this tremendous warmth, this tremendous Chesed that our community has. You'll then have people that come and study here for a year or two, and they are gobsmacked at the amount of chesed, the amount of care, the amount of giving that people have in South Africa, specifically in our community. And I think that it's so unique and so wonderful that we have this, and we should really, really embrace it. And it's so beautiful that you've put this program together to really highlight these institutions, because perhaps here in South Africa, we take it for granted that these are available. But per capita, the South African Jew, or the Johannesburg Jew at least, is probably the most well looked after Jew in terms of kashrus, shuls, welfare organizations, etc. And it's really a privilege to be here.
Yeah, wonderful, Levi. And I must say that, I have to make this disclosure. I have tremendous akoros atov to Chabad, to many, many people, too many to mention, who have certainly shown me what Chesed and Achnosos Orchim is all about. The movement should go from strength to strength. Levi, you and your Tyra family should go from strength to strength. Levi, you and your family, gechatmet mit gut alle gute Sachen, zis gebenchte Jahr, and we really, really appreciate you coming on our show. And please God, you, the Friendship Circle Chabad, your family will be part of the very important fabric of Chesed in South Africa for many, many years and many generations to come until Mashiach.
Amen. I just want to thank you, Rob, and I would like to thank Rabbi Aaron Zilberg from the base, and to Sol, and to Moshe again for all the work behind the scenes. Thank you for putting on such incredibly important webinars, Torah, social, welfare. You've really outdone yourselves, and it's a real treat for the whole community. Today I'm here as a panelist, but I'm actually here enjoying and listening. And so Yasher Koach to all of you, and may you all be blessed with all of Hashem's richest blessings. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Levi. Amen. I'd like to just hand over to our co-host, Robin from Seoul. Robin, you there?
How's it? Good evening. Thanks so much, Rob. So just to say, wow, and a huge thank you to Aaron Zilberg. It's such a privilege to partner on such an important webinar, with the focus being on Chesed. To Rob Katz, who's just the embodiment of living and doing. His life is Chesed. So Rob, thank you for being the example and for allowing us all to tap into it. And just Rabbi Levi, listening to you. So a lot of people always ask me, like, how do you have such a passion for Yiddishkeit, and how do you keep it? And I just keep going back to my mother telling me the story of how Rabbi Lipskar and Mashi, when they came to kasher, they pushed her and said, you must be kosher. And eventually they came to kasher her house. But she said they didn't just arrive to do it. They arrived with a truck with speakers and bochrim, and they started playing music, having l'chaims. And instead of it being this traumatic, like now I've got to go to the mikveh with mounds of dishes, it was probably one of the most simchadik experiences that she can remember. So it obviously had a massive, massive impact on me. And just hearing that you can do mitzvahs with so much joy and so much love, but just also knowing the impact that your family has had is just, it's unbelievable. So a big thank you. And yeah, it feels personal to hear how much they've done and the impact. And also Friendship Circle Jayde is a huge inspiration. And I think she's someone who just looks, wherever there's darkness, she just finds a way of bringing the light. It's super inspiring. So just, you should go from strength to strength and carry on igniting people's hearts with so much simcha, so much joy, so much chesed. So thank you all for a very inspiring evening.
Wonderful.
Rabbi?
Okay, thank you guys. On a personal note, and on behalf of the organizing group of this particular series, to Seoul and the whole base community certainly as well. In fact, the entire Jewish community, I want to take the opportunity to thank Rabbi Levi Lipskar and to thank Jayde Ronthal for allowing us this very special opportunity. Jayde, to see your passion and commitment is so, so inspiring. Rabbi Levi, your Avas Hashem and your Avas Yisrael is beyond evident. To find the right words to thank each of you is really challenging. Seeing what you do, hearing about what you do, and how you do what you do, such dignity, such respect, such chesed, such a kindness, such a love, it really is truly a Kiddush Hashem. And it's really beyond inspiring, so thank you. Hashem should continue to bless you and your families and all those that work with you and their families, that you should be able to continue to do the most important work that you do and much more. Rabbi Lipskar, in relation to Chabad, where can I even begin? In truth, regarding Chabad, and certainly regarding Chabad and Chesed, we could have dozens and dozens and dozens of sessions showcasing what is done and what has been done. And perhaps, who knows, maybe in the future such a series can be put together. Nonetheless, though, thank you. Thank you. Mechael Ochael with much bracha and atzlocha. I also want to take a moment to wish you and your Rebbetzin a very big mazel tov on the recent birth of a baby boy. Please God, you should see him, your family, all of us, to Torah Chuppah and Maasim Tovim, and Mishadanish and Simchas. As well as you mentioned earlier that your father has Yortzat, had Yortzat on Shabbos for your late grandfather, his Neshama should have an Aliyah, and we wish him Arichas Yomim, and again, we should all Anisha and Simchas. There's certain acknowledgements and thank yous that are most necessary, and I want to mention and thank our partners again in this series, Soul, run by Kate Gershuni, Robin Smukla, and Josh Sevitz. Thank you to each of you for partnering and for all that you do. Rob Katz, thank you for tonight, as always, world class. Thank you for all the time and the effort and the care that you put into this series. But the truth is it belittles your involvement to thank you for this series alone, but for all that you do for our wonderful community, thank you. Thank you to Ariel Weber as well, behind the scenes. The series wouldn't be what it is without your involvement and all of your organization behind the scenes as well. I also want to thank again my brother Moshe for all that he does to make all of these webinars a reality. We really could not do this without you. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Chodesh Tov, Good Chodesh. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Keep safe and have a wonderful evening.